If you do anything wrong in your life, and I find out about it, I'm gonna try to take everything away from you. And I don't care when I find out.
The night Will Smith walked onto the stage at the Academy Awards and slapped Chris Rock became one of the most shocking moments in modern entertainment history. What started as a simple joke by Chris Rock about Jada Pinkett Smith quickly turned into a global controversy. Millions of viewers watched in disbelief as Will Smith left a seat, walked on stage, and struck the comedian in front of a live audience. The moment immediately went viral and sparked debates about violence, comedy, and celebrity behavior. While some people defended Will Smith as a husband protecting his wife, many others believed the reaction was unacceptable. The most surprising part for many viewers was that Will Smith remained at the ceremony and later won the Best Actor award for his performance in King Richard. Instead of being removed, he received a standing ovation from the crowd, which made the controversy even bigger. That moment created a deep division in Hollywood and the comedy community. For comedians especially, it raised a serious question. If a comedian can be physically attacked for telling a joke, what does that mean for the future of stand-up comedy? The slap did not simply end as a trending topic. It became a cultural event that people continued to discuss for years. The audience barely flinched as she spoke about herself. Will Smith laughed, but then something shifted. What happened next defied every unspoken rule of Hollywood, every social contract between celebrities, and every standard of public decency. Will Smith stood up, walked onto the stage, and hit a man who was doing nothing more than holding a microphone. The violence was real. The crack of his palm against Chris Rock's face was audible throughout the theater. Chris stumbled, visibly stunned, unsure for a moment whether this was a bit or a genuine assault. Within seconds, it became devastatingly clear. This was not a bit. And then, in a surreal turn, nothing happened. Security did not intervene. The Academy did not remove him. No one escorted Will Smith from the building. Less than 40 minutes after committing assault on live television before a worldwide audience, Will Smith stood at the same podium, accepted the Academy Award for Best Actor, and received a standing ovation from the same industry that had just watched him attack one of its own. He wept. He spoke about love, God, and Richard Williams. He invoked destiny. The audience clapped. Let that sink in for a moment, because that moment, that standing ovation, transformed a bad night into a cultural catastrophe. It was not the slap itself, but the applause that made it unforgettable. Comedians immediately understood what everyone else was still debating. Chris Rock had done nothing wrong. He had done his job and had been physically punished for it in front of the entire world, while the institution supposedly dedicated to celebrating cinema rewarded his attacker with its highest honor. The comedy community rallied. Jim Carrey appeared on CBS Mornings and called the standing ovation Hollywood gave Will Smith the most spineless moment he had ever seen in the industry's history. He stated plainly that no one has the right to walk onto a stage and strike someone because of words. Bill Maher observed that alopecia is not a terminal illness, and that mocking someone's appearance, especially someone who had publicly discussed the condition, does not justify violence. That night marked a rupture in Hollywood, a reminder that power...
How are you?
People are here and screaming and cheering. You know, people screaming your name, that makes you feel really good.
Yeah, you know, you can't buy chemistry, and you can't fake it. You either vibe somebody. Opening up, and it's one of the places in the region that is, you know, we call film friendly.